Hey guys, welcome to Hidden Knowledge. I'm here with Jonathan.
What's good?
Kirk, we're here to go over the entirety of the book, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And here we go.
All right. So, hey, first of all, thanks again for having me. So, this is obviously a retake because I lost a little bit of the data. So right now we have a couple of outtakes that we're going to go through, and I'm only doing this for documentation so that way you can look at it or whatever.
Okay.
And so we've been obviously playing with the tables and trying to get the room right because it's the first time both of us have ever done this before. So bear with us as we traverse this network and learning new things, which is a beautiful thing. So again, I'm Jonathan, and I appreciate being here. So like I said, the book club is Hidden Knowledge, and the first book we're going to be going over is Start With Why. Chapter 1, A World That Doesn't Start With Why. How did you process how that was working?
So I thought, so when I got into A World That Doesn't Start With Why, I kind of looked back at my selfish situation, like how I went about doing certain stuff. Like when I was younger and I used to go to school, I didn't know why I go to school. And in fact, like we talked about this before, I kind of hated school, and I was like, hey, this is pointless. But like in school or in anything, most things that we do in life, 9 out of 10 people don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And so they'll go about learning the how, but not really the reason why they want to do it.
I think that was important. And I know, like, touching on this in the first chapter, it was really about how, it was not about how, it was really all about business. Like, he used a business landscape to describe all these things. And I think he did that, as we discussed, about just because of the lack of the emotion as you go through the book, you start seeing the more emotion being involved in it and how he's treating it like a relationship. To me, as I read it, we're as children, we're not cognizant of why we're doing things on a real level. You know what I'm saying? We're hungry, we want to eat, we want to, you know what I'm saying? We want to be entertained and we're trying to play, but really as we're playing, and I think like even science would say this, little boys want to be engineers. So they're kind of moving things around, and girls are more interested in dolls and stuff like that. And although society is changing, we can call it a societal norm, but it's really just no matter what, that's how things are hardwired. Because, and I know they did a study in Sweden, and I was listening to Jordan Peterson. He was saying that. So I thought it was a real good touch on how Apple came in and Bill Gates and all these people were trying to build this, and how other people's organizations were failing, but how their why wasn't even really about business. It was about getting the government to not do something or to, kind of pry or put their own space in there, which I thought was complete typical testosterone driven. I want to interfere with somebody's process and not be controlled type deal. So with that, assuming that and carrots with sticks were like the two major parts of that chapter.
Yeah. So assuming that like when we get into assuming that it's majority of the stuff that we start with in life, it's made out of assumption. Like how much, like I wrote a letter to my wife for Valentine's, right? Handwritten letter. And then a part of it while going through, I caught myself almost writing I love you to the moon and back, right? And I was like, I've never been to the moon. I've only ever looked up and see a star that looks really close. I don't know the distance to it, but I can relate to how much I like to eat. So I was like, I love you as much as I love my favorite dish, right? Or food. And then I was like, that she would be able to measure because she knows I like to eat and stuff like that. So it's and we talk. Most of our conversations, most of the stuff that we as human beings say today is made off assumptions, not hard facts. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, the law says this. Okay, have you ever read the law? Or what have you understood from that law? And so on and so forth, right? Which is very interesting, the conversations we do have because of that.
Yeah. And I'm inclined to agree with you on the premise that I think people want to be known for something. And they want to be memorable, and they're constantly, because of how big society's become with social media and so on, people are so inclined to try to outdo what someone else did. Oh, we can't just have a baby shower anymore. Now we have to have a baby reveal and a whole separate baby shower. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just all these little steps that are being taken now because someone, and maybe it's just to promote business, or maybe people actually like it. But when you sit down and look at why we over romanticize these things and how we get into this, and when you say like a statement, I love you to the moon and back, I think that came off the movie Twilight or some stuff like that. And I remember my daughter, when she was dating her now husband, she would say stuff like that to him. And as I was talking to him and kind of, we're mentoring and stuff like that, and I'm sitting down and he's like, yeah, she says stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, she saw it on TV. And that's where she's getting her idea of romance from, is what she saw somebody get. And I tell my children all the time, especially my 12-year-old daughter, she says things and I'm like, where'd you get that from? She's like, I saw it in a movie. And I'm like, but it's a movie. It's like, you kind of have to take that with it's a movie. Why are they doing that? And I think when you look at the business aspect of it and why she believes that, those are the things that this book really touches on that you should dive into. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Why are you trusting that the movie is telling you something real? Why is it that when Hidden Figures came out, every black person that I knew was running around talking about, oh, we had such a great investment into the space program? How do you know? Like, you don't know. You were told and then you bought it.
Right.
But why do you trust that information?
So, like, I like to call that TV standard.
Yeah.
I was like, don't compare me to TV standards. No. And then there's something that Dick Gregory said, which I thought was really cool in his book, Reading Black History, Reading Between the Lines. He said, most of us work on being loved versus lovable.
Yeah.
And that love is a very messed up thing because people do a lot of
crazy things in the name of love.
Yes, but then being lovable is being open and accepting, and is something that someone would constantly need to work on. So it's funny when my wife and I have these arguments, and I'm like, okay, I don't really like that. You know what I mean? Or she's like, I don't really like that. And I'll be like, okay, I'll work on being more lovable.
And I think the context is a little bit off, you know what I'm saying? But I understand it. I get it. And I think what it is it's not, somebody's always not going to like something about you.
That's
you know what I'm
true.
saying? And when I have conversations with my wife or when I have conversations with my relationships with my kids, it's all a matter of like, something wrong to you could be right for me. But if I'm not a bad person and I'm doing things out of the goodness, then it's not wrong. And so I don't complain about if my wife leaves socks on the floor and she does fun things. That doesn't make her unlovable. Those are just annoyances to me. You know what I'm saying? So I won't receive a complaint about that. I'm like, I dropped it. I didn't see it. Somebody should pick it up. If it bothers you that much, just pick it up. Well, I don't want to. No, you want to be bothered by something. You want to have a conversation about why? Because that's not me being unlovable because I left a sock on the floor. It doesn't mean that I don't appreciate you. There's a whole different way you can dive into that. But I think what Dick Gregory, because I read that book, his intent was, don't focus on trying to get someone else to change. Focus on being the best version of yourself.
He did say that.
He said that, right? So focus on being the best version of yourself and then just kind of like make a decision from there. You have a right to make a decision.
That's true.
And, that's kind of diving into another book. But I think I like what you said because it also jumps into the second book that, Sticks and Carrots. So talking about Sticks and Carrots, what was your take on it?
It's like, I like the part that he talked about manipulation, because Sticks and Carrots is a form of manipulation. Like, we go to school, they'll give you a golden star as a kid. Hey, I got this. I happen to just think the way you wanted me to think. Here's a golden star. You get 100 on that. So it's like how we rate ourselves. So it's things that people would do to give you, like, hey, I'll give you a bonus if you just screw over this many people. Like, okay, I'll do it. Here's a bonus and stuff like that. So Sticks and Carrots is not inspiring people, but manipulating them to get your wants from them. That's what I do.
And I related this to starting off in the negative with a stick and a carrot circumstance. It's to me, I consider to be an abusive relationship. I don't think luring someone with the prospect of getting something is the way to go. You're either going to give it to them or you're not. It's not to say you don't have to do the work, but it's to say that it gets to, when you're talking about sticks and carrots, you're literally getting someone to do extra, only to give them the same little reward that you dangled in the first place. Oh, what they call it now, moving the goalpost, I think is the biggest thing they call it now, where you're sitting there, it's like, oh, well, if you do this, then we'll get this. Oh, well, now that you did that, we just got to do like 5 more things. And it reminds me of a circumstance when I worked at Lowe's. After I came back from Iraq, I had like a little bad period of time in life. I don't want to call it bad. It was just interesting, right? It was fucking bad. All right. So I'm working at Lowe's, and I remember I worked in the plumbing department, and I went to the boss and I was like, hey, I want to move this stuff over here and do it like this. And I was like, but I just want your permission to do it. And if you don't like it, I'll undo it. And he's like, all right. So then I was moving the stuff, and I kind of got stuck in my head for a second. So I'm putting stuff up on the top shelf in the back. And the guy that I was working with, I was like, hey, I think we're going to put up like a couple of more. And then I want to go to lunch. And then we'll come back and we'll finish it up after lunch. And I'll conclude. And we'll finish it up after lunch. And every time I would come down, he was like, hey, let's just do one more. And he kept doing that. And to the point where I came down the last time, I looked at him and I was like, bro, like I was entertaining it the first 3 times. You know what I'm saying? But I said, I want to do it this way. This is my project. Like, and you keep trying to angle me to do one more because you want to get done for whatever reason. But I don't want to get into a rush. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to like you're trying to dangle my idea in front of me to get me to continue to work. Oh, we'll just do one more. And it was like, yo, like, no, like we're going to get paid for 8 hours of work, but it's time to go eat. I'm hungry. I don't want to start making mistakes inside of that. Mm-hmm. And I think that was very important as far as sticks and stones go. An alternative perspective. So this week we were having a conversation. I think you sent me a text about the book that we were reading now. And how we were going to do the book club this week because we got set behind a little bit. And I remember you said something I don't even remember what you said, but it was like, I've already started reading the book. And it's like, it kind of said the same thing as the last book. And I was like, yeah, because they're selling you back vitamins. Like they sell you green beans and then separately they give you they say, hey, you need to buy these vitamins because we took all these vitamins out of the green bean. So you're eating and then you need to get the vitamins. And that's kind of sometimes how I look at, as we go through life, we kind of strip things down and don't give anybody the raw version under the guise, and I say guise intentfully, under the guise that they can't handle all of it at one time. Makes no sense to me, right? So when you talk about alternative perspective, in that moment, you were reading the book and you were looking at it and you were like, wait a minute, like this kind of says the same thing as the last book. And here, you think you're getting some wisdom and really you're getting a whole bunch of, and it is wisdom in a way, but you're getting a lot of different perspectives on how to look at stuff. But when you think about it, even looking at carrots and sticks and an alternative perspective, and when looking at assuming that you know and how we related that to love, and then looking at what Dick Gregory said and how that played into the first chapter of the next book that we're reading is from the inside out. You know what I'm saying? Always look at yourself first for improvement. Don't try to force your way of the world on everyone else. And I think that was very important. But with that, the golden circle. What is the golden circle?
The golden circle, the way I understood the golden circle was, I came up with an idea. I like my idea. I started with the why, and then I started building that, and then people who have a similar idea come in, and we all work together for the betterment of each other. So
okay,
that's how I interpreted that.
And so, here's how I look at it. And I agree with what you said, but I look at it like when you have good leaders and you have bad leaders. You have good bosses and bad bosses. You have good supervisors, bad supervisors. All of those words in reality mean the same thing. There's someone that is in charge that theoretically has more knowledge and or experience than you that's guiding the show. If they're not communicating effectively and telling you why you're doing what you're doing, or for example, whenever my children don't do something to their fullest ability, and it's always cleaning their room or picking up dog poop or bathing the dog or something. It's always something that they don't intrinsically, like they don't want to do it. You wanted the dog, but you didn't want the work that came with the dog. And a lot of times when we start off things, when you say you start with why, you start off with, if I actually want to do this, I'm going to give 100% effort. You don't have to tell kid, hey, do you want ice cream? Yes, everybody wants ice cream. We're going to go there and everybody will eat the ice cream. That's the motivation is at the end of it, there's something that you're getting. Whereas if you tell someone to do something without telling them why, a lot of times you have a tendency to just kind of create a circumstance where somebody's half doing something that you want them to do wholly. And I think that is what the point of the golden circle is to look how that ripple effect that starts with you becomes less and less effective as it comes out without reason.
That's sure. That's funny because like I thought like about my childhood. There was one thing that someone said to me that I didn't forget. They said, if you don't want to do something, don't do it.
And that's a beautiful thing. And so with that being said, that is the natural. I mean, they say it's the natural biology of it. When you look at it, I guess that's how you make a crackhead, right? It gets into their biology. It becomes part of who they are, the craving, the synapse, and how that's working. But what you just said as a child, if you don't want to do it, don't. It saves people time.
That's true.
Because
true.
the time it takes for me to continually go back and have some, why didn't you do it this way? You didn't do it right, da da da. So me supervising something, and more importantly, when you look at other animals, dogs don't chase shit they're not trying to eat. Once they're full,
They stop.
they chill. Because why? why am I chasing that for nothing?
Mm-hmm.
So the biology of it is the dog knows what's necessary for the dog and what's not, and what you're trying to do is meet in the middle. And get the dog to understand not only you're not the boss, you know what I'm saying? When I say it's time to move, it's trying to move, but also the necessity isn't necessarily for you. It's also for us in our comfort. I don't want to come back and clean up no dog piss either. You know what I'm saying? Like, you leave the dog alone, dogs do stuff.
Oh my God.
So now we're at the point we're talking about clarity, discipline, and consistency. Ooh. Clarity, discipline. I believe, I'd like to take this one first. I believe, and it gets me, I don't want to say a lot of trouble. A lot of people take me wrong because I speak with clarity. Clarity is sometimes brute force. I don't believe in word padding. And like I can't say I don't believe in it. I don't like doing it. And there's only very short instances where I do. And it's normally when I'm so mad that I know like what I'm going to say is going to be like it's beyond what I intend. So then I have to kind of sit back and be like, if I release this flood, I'm probably going to like destroy my relationships. Like I'll just, because certain times it's just things, you know, they kind of build up on some time. And that takes a lot of discipline on my part. So I'm kind of like breaking that down, right? My clarity is my desire to speak truth. And my discipline is to know when my truth can be too harsh and I need to buffer myself. And my consistency is remaining within my character, right? That is how I see this. If you can speak to people, and this touches Jahari's window. Like if you can speak to people and tell them, hey, this is what it is.
Hey guys, don't forget, be kind, be cordial. Remember, a smile costs nothing. This is Hidden Knowledge. Thank you for tuning in with Jonathan and I.